So I'm going to start today with reading you a message from White Buffalo Woman about prayer and how prayer is a healing technology. Prayer is a vehicle for the direct communion between your awareness and your higher self. It is also the direct communication between your awareness and Great Spirit. Prayer is a conversation that can happen in many spoken words or in the silence of feeling. Prayer is a visualization of something desired and the communication of that desire to be fulfilled by the Holy Spirit within you and by all of creation. An authentic prayer is both humbling and empowering. That's very true. Prayer is a spiritual technology that requires your awareness to surrender to the power of the Holy Spirit working within you and in all of creation. Allowing yourself to surrender to a higher power humbles your awareness to reach beyond the limitations and the resistance of the ego. The ego would have you believe that the thinking of your limited human awareness is your only resource for problem solving or manifesting a desire. But when you pray, you are allowing a higher power beyond your human understanding and effort. The power of Holy Spirit that exists within you to divinely orchestrate the answers to your every prayer. In this way, prayer is a great equalizer that both humbles and empowers all people through the act of surrender. Receiving the answers to your prayers teaches your awareness to trust that there is a greater part of you listening to you and answering your every request through the technology of prayer. To quiet yourself and respectfully communicate with any living being is an act of prayer. You have the power to speak directly with those people that you call animals or birds. When you humble your human awareness to accept and honor the Holy Spirit within them, that awaits your communion through the vehicle of prayer. For truly, that is the heart of a prayer, a humble and curious communion with the Holy Spirit that speaks in the tongues of all beings. Communion with the great beings speaking as animals, such as the white buffalo, invokes a higher awareness about the interconnected community and ecosphere of all humans, people, and otherwise. It is very, very easy. This is just me talking now. That's just something I wanted to read you about the beautiful technology of prayer. It is very, very easy when something happens to get thrown off course and forget that we have tools, that we have technology to use. And now I want to read you an old newsletter. Well, it's from this past May, so it's not that old, from Raymond Grace. And I highly recommend you get on his newsletter mailing list because his newsletters are great. They always have like little teaching gems in them. So this was from Raymond. Howdy, folks. Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen, and some wonder what happened. It's just like how he talks. He writes how he talks. It's so funny. Here's a story of a friend who made something happen. This man was in my class, and obviously he came to learn. He sent this email to me before daylight on April 2nd of this year. He didn't call me. He didn't ask me what to do, nor did he ask me to do this for him. He did it alone, and he prepared ahead of time. So this is the email that he's sharing. Good morning, Raymond. After hearing your stories about using a double-bladed axe to protect yourself from threatening weather, I dug around in my tool shed and I pulled out my double-bladed axe and put it on the shelf near my back door. This morning, my whole family woke to the sound of tornado sirens and weather warnings on our phones going off, all saying that there was a tornado spotted in our area. Once all the family were downstairs and I went and grabbed my axe and did what you said, I told my spirit guides and the spirit of the storm that I would like to split the storm. I then stuck the axe into my front yard. The results were incredible. Calm within minutes. Even though it was dark and I couldn't see how fast moving, I could see low, fast moving clouds with the sky very clear behind them. Almost not a breath of wind at my property during a tornado warning. Incredible. I told my family the storm was over and everyone is now asleep again. I thought you might like to know. So then it's back to Raymond writing, and he says, please note, Frankie didn't call me and ask me if he could do this. He didn't ask what brand of axe to use. He didn't ask if he needed permission to stop the tornado or what his neighbors might think of them if they saw him putting an axe in the ground. He just did it. A few years ago, a big hurricane was moving up the East Coast and destroying a lot of buildings. It was headed directly to my friend's farm in Pennsylvania. I had told him how to split the clouds with an axe. He followed directions and he got a double bit axe, one that has two sharp blades. He put one blade in the ground and the other blade was pointed at the storm. The storm split and went around his farm on both sides, but did no damage to his buildings. I also shared the information with a farmer friend in Nebraska who used it to prevent a hailstorm from destroying his crops. Weather forecasts warned of a big hailstorm approaching and heavy rain was already falling. Joe didn't want to go out in the rain, so he put an imaginary axe in the ground at his property line, and the hailstorm split and went around his farm. No damage to his crops, and he got a good rain. My friend Jeff's wife was in China, and she and her family were going somewhere, and the forecast was heavy rain. She called Jeff and asked what to do. Since they didn't have an axe, he told her to put chopsticks in the ground. It worked. But when they pulled the chopsticks out of the ground as they were leaving, the rain started to fall again. A friend from Florida contacted me about a hurricane that was approaching, and she had reason to believe her apartment would be flooded as it was in a high-risk flood zone. I mentally built a stone seawall around her apartment, and there was no flooding at her apartment. These stories have been in previous newsletters, but since we constantly get new people, it seemed reasonable to mention them again. Einstein supposedly said, imagination is more important than knowledge. If he didn't say it, he should have. Please note, I write simple, blunt, and to the point. It is not necessary to write me and ask any questions about this. Just do it. Please note, my standard answer when someone writes to ask if they can do something is, why don't you try it and find out? It is the only way you will ever know. Okay, so one of the things that's so brilliant about Raymond and his genius is he'll try something and he'll be confident enough to work with his imagination and do energy work and see what happens. And he'll be the first one to tell you that sometimes it doesn't work out, but usually it does. So back to the prayer technology, these are things that we forget sometimes that we have access to when we are thrown off course. And he talks about preparedness. Preparedness is very shamanic, okay? So there's a difference between being prepared and feeling afraid and being vulnerable, because of course we can't know every single thing that's going to happen, but we can do shamanic preparation and we can stay the course of how do we center ourselves? How do we remain effective when things get thrown off course and things happen that are very unexpected? Utilizing the technology of prayer, even if you've never even in your wildest dreams conceived of throwing an axe into the ground to split a storm, is that stuff possible to do? Absolutely, yes. Weather shamanism is not new. Weather manipulation with technology is not new. And so a lot of people live in this amnesia state where they don't even think either one is to manipulate elements for the good and for harmony and protection. That happens all the time. And manipulating the elements for control and greed purposes, absolutely happening all the time. But I was reminded yesterday during our big neighborhood owl rescue adventure. When we finally got the owl that we rescued because she had a broken wing, and she's at an emergency vet. And when a wild animal is surrendered to a wildlife rescue program, you can no longer know what is happening with that animal. They will not give you updates. But I remembered something that I forgot when I was dealing with my dog being in an emergency vet situation. I remembered I can go check on that owl. I can continue to work with that owl remotely and see her, pray for her. I love that description from White Buffalo Woman of like how any kind of focused feeling and reverence toward another living being can be considered prayer because you're honoring the Holy Spirit in you and the Holy Spirit in them. So yesterday when I was able to get near her and really connect with her, and she was so amazing. It was such a beautiful gift to have that time with her. But now I can go visit her and just see how the process is going. These are the things that we have to remind ourselves that we're powerful about. Because in the situation with Shanti, this happened in 2021 where she had a series of seizures, and it was during the time that everything was shut down. And so they wheeled her into, it still can make me like, the emergency vet, and they wouldn't let me go in because of the shutdown. And I forgot. It's like I do this kind of stuff all the time. And that's why I'm reminding you all. It was about something that was so emotional to me that it took me probably like a good part of one day, like probably a good part of 24 hours before I went, this is what I do. I work remotely with everybody. Why am I not with her remotely in there? Why do I not take my awareness and travel to her and help her? Why was I not doing that? I'll tell you why. It's so easy to forget that we have all these tools and get thrown off course. And that's what happened that day. So when I came to my senses, like what an appropriate phrase that is, come to your senses. Come back to all of your superpowers and your abilities in the times that you need them the most. I could go and find her down that hallway with my awareness, just sitting in meditation at my home. I could find her down that hallway and connect in with her energy field. And her energy field had changed from this beautiful, she was a beautiful, solid purple all the times in her life where she had a lot of life force energy and she was like very much in her body and agreeing to stay in that body, in that life. Very, very beautiful, intact purple energy field all around her. And then when I found her in there, her energetic field had changed to all these beautiful fractal prisms. And she was just prisms all the way around. And she started telling me, once I connected in with her and I was like, I found you. And she was like, I'm coming home. I'm not going to transition here. I want to be with you when I transition. And I was like, okay. And so we started the process of me learning how I could assist her in her transition. And she did get to come home, and we had beautiful ceremony around her crossover. And I understood. I absolutely understood everything that was going on. And I didn't have to stay in that very, very disempowered state of being thrown off course and not being in my senses. And that's why I wanted to share Raymond with you all, as far as like, if he knows a storm is coming, he will do these action steps. That's very, very shamanic. Do you have to have a specific kind of blade? Do you have to do things in a specific way? No. No, that's where it's like, I want you to know with the pendulum charts and handouts that I'm correcting, and I'm going to actually add some more. I want you to understand everyone uses pendulums in different ways. These different handouts I'm showing you might have discrepancies, and like some will say this means counterclockwise. Some might say, okay, you do this clockwise with a pendulum. I want you to transcend looking at any of these handouts for dowsing and going, this is the way that I'm supposed to do this. That's the hardest thing for us to break through with the cultural mind control programming that we have, because when we're doing energy work training, there is no, you have to do it this way. There's spiritual hygiene, there's safety, there's things that are definitely going to make you more effective. But that guy he's talking about, one of his students, Jeff, whose wife was in China, I know who he's talking about. That guy will do the unthinkable because he's utilizing his imagination for energy work, and he's just transcending rules. He's like, take some chopsticks out there and put them in the ground. The chopsticks were only for her intention. Because just like Raymond said, if you don't feel like going out in the storm, you could make the axe, throw the axe, split the axe in your mind. These are all just tools. That's what most people don't understand about shamanism is the medicine bag, the medicine bundle, the power object on your altar. It's to harness your intent, because your intention is the strongest healing power you have. Your intention and your love frequency, okay? But most people, when something goes down, what's the first thing they do? They forget. They forget about all of this. And are there things that you can do to fortify your home? Can you make protection grids around your home? Yes. Do you have to do all that in certain ways? No. So Raymond created a flower of life. Like this one's completely made out of copper. This one's mine, and my brother made this one for me because I'll share with you photos of the one that Raymond makes and the one that he used to have. Well, he and the guy that made them, they quit making them, and I really wanted one. So my brother surprised me. And when Raymond came here and taught our weekend workshop, my brother looked at his, because Raymond very reluctantly brought his to the workshop. He doesn't like to take it away from his home because it's kind of like a protection grid on his home and his land. I said, please bring it. I said, I just want my students to see it. Well, I had no idea that my brother was studying the exact math measurements and dimensions of it so that he could make one. Raymond has used this to clear and harmonize pool, like enough water, like in a pool. He's used it to do all these crazy things with. So there are tons of different kinds of like harmonizer, shield, protection tools that you can buy or you can make. But Raymond's going to be the first one to tell you, you can make it to suit you. Okay. So the fact that my brother made me my own harmonizer, flower of life. Sometimes I put this on someone, sometimes I put it under my bed, but usually it stays in the center of my home. What you could do is you could even visualize and imagine a full flower of life protection shield over your home. You can grid your home with crystals. You can grid your home with a protection blend of gemstones, such as obsidian, such as rose quartz. If you need to create more love in the environment versus protection, you get to choose how you use the elements, the precious metals, the gemstones to, why do we do this? Harness our intention. Okay. So my brother can build any of you one of these that wants one. He figured out how to do it and he's super creative. So if you want to order one, my brother can make these for you, because Raymond and his buddy that were doing them, they're no longer making them. Okay. But I don't want you to be disempowered if you don't have a copper flower of life. I want you to figure out, could you draw one and focus your intention somewhere that you want to shield and create protection for? Could you grid your land in a specific way that makes you feel good? Because that's what all of these action steps are about. Okay. That's the hardest thing, I think, to figure out how to break it down and to deconstruct how it's been for so long in the energy that we were in, that everybody's afraid that they're going to do it wrong. And the people who are being really effective out there, being innovative and trailblazing with doing energy work, they aren't afraid to try. And that's the only reason that all these people from all over the world flock to Abingdon, Virginia to study with Raymond. I know now I I don't need to ask Raymond if I did it right. I'm finally past that. And that's where I want you to be. But I know how long it took me to quit second guessing and to be like, okay, you've got to start somewhere. And like one really shamanic principle when it comes to any kind of inspired action we do is effectiveness is the measure of truth. So how is it effective? Is that what's going to make it true or not for you? And we need structure in order to become unstructured. We need form in order to be formless. All right. But you're going to get better and better the more you trust yourself. And the only way to start to trust yourself with energy work, with doing, with living your life more in a shamanic way of working with the elements. And I have students that say they don't like the vocabulary of elemental manipulation or manipulating energy. Okay. But really and truly, we came here and we incarnated physically to learn how to work with form. And we are the elements. So when there's only elemental manipulation going on in nefarious ways, it's not in balance. Of if you know that these elements are being manipulated out here, there's tons of technology. They've been doing it for a long time. I was in Hawaii at the time of the fires, and I did not know what was happening. I was on the Big Island. I was on the side of the Big Island where you could feel and smell the smoke coming from Lahaina. I was that close to where it was happening. But the night it was happening, the night before everything was like really in full force, devastation and destruction, I'm dreaming about the earth grids. I'm dreaming about the beautiful, intricate grid work of light that is the crystalline structure of the earth from where I was on the Kona side of the Big Island to Lahaina. And I'm seeing all this grid work. I'm seeing grid work and information from Lemurian times underneath the water. And I did not know what that meant. I also saw, so it was the first time in my life I saw unidentified craft in the sky. It was that night. And I had so much energy coursing through my body as everything is going down over here. And I don't know it. I don't have any conscious awareness of that. I had to get up out of bed in the middle of the night, go outside and do qigong because the energy was like too much for my body. When I went outside to do qigong, I see all these craft in the sky, and I was like, funny, it just doesn't feel like extraterrestrial. It just feels like government technology craft that I don't know what it is. But I was there. Okay, so I find it very interesting that the location that I ended up with my husband last weekend to celebrate his birthday was not where we were supposed to be. We were supposed to be in Virginia Beach. And he changes the whole direction of his birthday weekend and course corrected over to a place we've never been in North Carolina, never been there. Like an internal GPS compass of like, you're right where you need to be. The funny thing is, and I don't have all this figured out, I'm just telling you so that you can trust that you're not going to necessarily have all the information of like how you're doing earth energy work, earth clearing, grid work, all these kinds of things. I start having those earth grid dreams again in that location that is now destroyed. I start having these earth grid clearing dreams, and it was just like deep work all night, energy work on the earth. And woke up tired because I was like, I feel like I've been working all night. What I want you to affirm and trust, just really trust this inside of yourself. You will be right where you need to be to assist the earth, an animal, a person, doesn't really matter. There's something else I wanted to read you from the White Buffalo Woman. And I want to go back to this in the Sophia Code, that it is so easy to forget that you can pray and use your prayer technology and be powerful. And that's what I would really like to anchor you all into today with your energy work. Prayer is energy work. Okay. But there was something else in here from her about prayer being your greatest medicine. I just love that. uh, she says, I am here to teach you the full power of prayer to clear all timelines of suffering, including the desecration of the divine feminine, and restore you to a peace that has never left you. It is safe for you to let go of the past. No matter how many times you relive the trauma of genocide, you cannot change the outcome. I am here to guide you back to your own salvation, which is to believe in the power of the Holy Spirit working through you to atone for and reconcile all imbalances. You honor your ancestors and cleanse the past by fully living in the prayer of the present moment. I want you to breathe into that truth with me, and I'm going to read it again to you. Take a deep breath and feel this. You honor your ancestors and cleanse the past by fully living in the prayer of the present moment. This prayer is praying you and all of humanity into a new relationship with each other and Mother Earth. Stop shaming yourself for everything that the tribes of humanity have done to each other in the past. Internalizing shame only slows the momentum of this prayer that is being answered through loving yourself. You are here as a way shower to lead many in how to create a new paradigm free of the past by commanding changes through the sovereign power of your prayer. One of my great prayers for humanity is the reconciliation of the divine feminine Christ consciousness. In this next age of miracles, women must claim their divine right to fully embody the Sophia code within them and take up the mantle of the divine feminine Christ leadership. Prayer is a vehicle for the direct communication between your awareness and your higher self. I just want to call you to that fully today and to remind you that as I go in and I add dowsing handouts, as I correct like the ones that wouldn't download properly, because since I was on here live with you all, it's been like full on in action for the things that have taken place with the land where we live. My mom just now has her power back on. She's been here with us since Thursday. So she'll be able to go home and assess the damage so far. But do not lose the powers that you have. Do not forget the tools that are at your disposal, regardless of everything that's going on. But just like with those handouts, I don't want you disempowered to a dowsing handout as to like how to do it. Because if you look at how my teacher taught me and how I'm now teaching, you can decide how you want to do this. And you working with your own intuition and your own intuitive abilities isn't going to look like the way anybody else's does if you're doing it properly. My mom and I were talking this morning about the 6 clairs, and she was like, really, that's how you see. I was explaining to her how I'd never had dilation with my eyes. I'd never gone to the eye doctor until I was 41. And I got with Steve, and Steve is just like this, he's just this beautiful earth-based blessing in my life where, like I said, he was the reason that we were on the Big Island at the time of the Maui fire so that I could do energy healing over there. I know that we were meant to be there. We've wanted to go to Hawaii together, my favorite place on earth where I used to live. Wanted to go there for 9 years, been with him for 9 years. And we just so happened to end up there when all that's going on. Okay. Yeah, nothing to that. And then last weekend was supposed to be about his birthday and supporting his celebration of his birthday, not about like where I wanted to go or anything like that. So we had planned a trip to Virginia Beach all along. We were supposed to be in Virginia Beach until 2 weeks before. And that's how he operates, of not even knowing that he has this internal GPS and he's talking to God all the time. He doesn't even know that. He just puts himself where he needs to be. But when we first started dating, and I was 41 years old, he was like, "You're 41. You've never been to the eye doctor? Oh, I'm making you an appointment with my eye doctor. She's the best. You got to go." He sets me up the whole appointment. I have my eyes dilated for the first time and I could not see energy. And I didn't know how to interact with my environment. And I felt like my life was over. I felt like, because what happened at this area of my body, which is like the strongest way that I interact with life, is here, front and back. It was like my third eye got so traumatized, I would say, from the dilation, that everything just retracted back in and went, ooh, and just kind of like recoiled, and I couldn't see energy. And I did not know what to do, because it was like imagining if you just never could hear music again. And music was like how you interacted with the world. I had to cancel all my clients, and I just went into this deep confusion and sadness of like, what do I do? And finally, after about 48 hours, where everything was so flat and dull for me, and I was like, I don't know how to translate the world around me without seeing color, shapes, patterns all around everything. So it's like, for me, what somebody else accesses through plant medicine and what can full on activate them here, that is how I am, like, normally. So there are many types of plant medicines that I'm not allowed to work with, because it would be detrimental to me, because I already am that. So that would take me unraveled in the fabric and the essence of what looks solid here. And that's kind of like what I try to liken the earth grid to, is you have this crystalline grid work structure. That's, you can call it, we can work with that on a quantum level, on a subatomic level. We can work with that in the electrons. There's tons of ways to understand this crystalline gridwork structure, right? And the earth also has it as well. So my structure doesn't need those really high level plant teachers that will help you see that. There are people that are born that way, like me. And my mom finds that so fascinating, because, like she was saying this morning, she's like, these are my intuitive ways that I work with color. And she can connect and work with colors that aren't even in our spectrum. I can't do that. And that's what we were talking about this morning, is your way of translating energy is going to be so unique and so beautiful, so precious, and like your entire vibrational signature. It's not going to be like anyone else's. And that's what's so hard about teaching energy work, is people want to look at like Raymond's protocols and Raymond's style, or Barbara Brennan's style of doing this, or mine, or anybody else's. And it's like, it takes time and cultivation of your energy to understand your unique gifts, because no one else is going to have it like that. So it's like, I can tell someone, this is how it is for me to work with energy. But long story short, when I got my eyes dilated, it took 3 days and my sight came back. It did not come back in the same way. It came back, I would say, like, I got like 85% of my abilities back. And by about 48 hours into the process, like after the dilation, I was like, okay, I was talking to myself and I was like, you can learn a different way of relating to life all around you. People lose limbs. There's worst tragedies that happen here than you had your eyes dilated. But for me, it was huge. And that's what I want you really appreciating the magnitude of the abundant resources that we have in our senses, like we were talking about in wealth consciousness work last Thursday. I'm even more appreciative of that after this weekend of when I was up there in Chimney Rock and Lake Lure last weekend. I could not take my shoes off enough. I could not get the codes and the downloads and the secrets of that land, and I didn't know why. And you're not going to understand a lot of what you do at the time when you are really fully engaged in your senses. And how beautiful of a gift is it that what you bring to the people that you teach and the people you serve is bring them back to their senses. There's no better way to calm down anxiety and living in the future and having panic attacks than just have a little sensory relief kit on hand for someone who has a lot of panic attacks. You know how easy that is to do? Something wonderful for them to smell, something that they like to smell, and get a client engaged in the process of making their own sensory relief kit, because they can have a little thing with them at all times that has an essential oil that they really respond to, an essential oil that calms them down. So it would be different for each person. Yet again, it's not going to be one size fits all. You can look at different calming, grounding essential oils, and you can choose one of those for your sensory relief kit. Something to touch, something with a texture, if it's a seashell that you love the texture of, or a crystal, or a really beautiful soft piece of natural fabric. It could be that in your sensory relief kit. Something to taste that really brings you pleasure, brings you back to the preciousness of the present moment in your body. These are all things that can get somebody out of anxiety where they're not effective. They can't help anything. They can't help themselves, much less anybody else if they're in a state of anxiety. These are really, really simple ways that you can anchor someone into the preciousness of the present moment. Okay. So we start at this point. I'm going to start sharing with you snippets from other energy healing trainings I've done that have this blend of me applying this to like our real life moment to moment, being of service to the earth, being of service to each other way that you can continue to stay on course and understand your purpose. Understand your purpose here. Did you catch that when White Buffalo Woman was saying, the women are here to regain and remember what they're doing here? I'm going to read that to you again. Whew, she says, I'm here to mentor women into how to make a strong prayer for their personal sovereignty and how to receive the answer to that mighty prayer. In this next age of miracles, women must claim their divine right to take up this mantle of divine feminine Christ leadership. Women are the buffalo of community, birthing and raising every generation from the prayer of their wombs. When women are supported to dream in peace, men become woven into their prayer and know their own worth by supporting their women birthing a new paradigm into reality. That's so powerful. And I don't want you all to forget. I don't want you to forget when natural disasters come. And I want you to retain the hope and the glorious possibilities that even within storms, even within weather manipulation and all that, you still have power, you still have tools. Okay. So you might not know ahead of time. You might not have known to be able to do this energy work. You might not never have a copper flower of life, but my brother can make you one if you want one, but you are not limited to a tool. That's what I want you gaining access to and looking all around you and seeing people that are doing it in their own way. So we begin at this point in the energy healing training, working with the structured grid work of your own energy field, that structured crystalline matrix that makes up you, where something happens to you, you can do field repair. When your energy field gets compromised because the actual structure gets torn, or you have a surgery, or there's an injury, you immediately have a tool that you can use. That's field repair. That's where we begin now. Okay. Is you understanding how the luminous fibers work in your energetic field. When you understand how yours work, you understand how hers work, the earth. Because people will say to me, like, what's grid work? When I hear people talking about grid clearing or grid work, that happens in you and it happens to her. As above, so below, as within, so without. The minute we come back to that, they're like, oh, if it's happening around here, it's happening in here. So your healing and the earth's healing are the same. But I've got snippets of video for you. And finally today, I'll be able to go back and do the dowsing handouts properly, like they need to be downloaded. I've got more to add to it. I've got like a pendulum diagnostic one to add to it. I want to make that disclaimer to you. I'm not telling you these handouts are going to all be congruent in the way people do dowsing. It's different. This is the adventure of it. You have to look at how other people work with pendulums and how they connect to their intuition, and then you have to decide what works for you. There are no rules. Like we have to decide. I'm a sovereign being. It's my energy work. If it really bothers you to think of like manipulation of the elements, I would unpack that. I would really go into that, because if you're resisting that it's happening, that other people are doing it, it's going to leave you in a disempowered place that they can do it and you can't do it. Why? Why is that? When all form can be, you can change the word if you want, if just the word manipulation is triggering for you. But oh, that's another thing that in the beginning of working with Raymond, he would say, write down every word that triggers you. And really, every one of you should do this in every class you ever teach. It'll help so much. As the shaman of your life, okay, any word that triggers you is this wonderful potential to go into, to access, ooh, there's some healing for me to do there then. Because if anything externally is triggering us in any way, that's our responsibility from a shamanic perspective. So it's like, if there's a word that comes up that I'm like, oh, like that makes me feel all these associations, I have healing work to do there. Because it's mine, it's my responsibility. So he would just like, go ahead and write down every word that offends you, and let's just go ahead and neutralize all of that. Otherwise, I don't want a whole bunch of people in here. They're going to be just like triggered the whole time that I'm saying words, because it's energy. So that's like a really, really great thing to do with anybody that you work with. So they're not like, well, that's really offensive to me. It's like, our vibrational state of being is our responsibility. It's no one else's, right? So understanding your power and not feeling like everything else out there has all the power. The only reason that has happened is the common masses of normal everyday people have not even known energy work is possible. They've not even known it exists. They've been dulled asleep on every single level. And the truth of the matter is, you have just as much potential to do all of this that's been being done on the entire population. And if you haven't watched that, it starts out with Nikola Tesla, and it starts out talking about 369 and how 369, the sacred math of creation, it's the key to everything. I'm going to post it on my public Facebook page. People probably won't watch it, most people, because it's long. But I don't share with you anything that's not worth your time, because I really hold my own time precious, and I don't do a lot of scrolling. It's just when I find something of value, this is worth your time, because it explains how frequency is being used. And if it's being used on us and against us, the empowering perspective on this is, well, we can use it too. So I want you to begin with just imagining, using your imagination, using your breath, feeling into the grid work of light that makes your structure for your physical body. The grid work of light are what the Native Americans call the luminous fibers. Okay. So there's different ways to approach it. I'm going to give you a luminous fibers meditation to work with. I'm going to give you a first level energy field, structured energy work in the grid work to start to work with your body. Once you start to work with the structured energy grids of your body, you can also help the earth in a more strategic, precise way in her structured grid work of light. This is where we help out. This is how we not only help ourselves, but we help the planet as well. Okay. So yeah, I've got some fine tuning to go back into and to fix whatever's going on with these downloads not working properly. But I did find out my friend Alexandra is fine. Yeah, she's the one who created my favorite dowsing handout that gives the ways to ask the questions. And she's got her own little things in there about the pendulum going counterclockwise or going clockwise. I've had questions come in, which I'm just like so glad you guys are into it and going, well, wait, this handout says counterclockwise. You're gonna have to try, because that's the other thing is your pendulum may not behave and operate like Alexandra's, like for like how she's giving you the structure, but she's such a structured communicative person that it really helped me. So I'm hoping that it helps you. And she's fine. And she's getting ready to get out of Asheville and head to Panama. So I was just really, really happy that she was okay over there. But I love how she teaches corporate executive women how to tune into their own intuition in business. That's her niche. And it's such a great niche for her as a executive coach for NASA all of those years. And then she found Raymond Grace, and that's how we met and became friends in Raymond's classes. And so now it's like you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is how it works for me. This is how it works for me. That's what I want you having confidence to find out. So you experiment around and you find out. And so healing tools are great, but you being aware and remembering that you have the power of your intuition, that's the more important thing. So just take a minute with me right now and just close your eyes and just feel into the luminous fibers of your body. Do they feel easy for you to access? You're accessing the structured grid work, the physical template, like the energy template of your physical body. This grid work of light, I can tell you, it looks blue and white to me. It looks like a blue grid or like a white grid with blue. Like just notice and use your imagination. There's no wrong way to do this. But you might notice if you just set an intention that you want to connect in with the first level of your field, the structured grid work template of your physical body. Notice if there's any areas at all as you scan and you just become aware, have there been surgeries that have compromised the integrity of this grid? Are there any areas where the energy leaks out and perhaps your life force isn't being held and contained in a way that is the most potent and powerful for you? Are there any areas we need to tend to and strengthen and weave repair work? This could be from a pulled tooth to plastic surgery, breast augmentation, injury, and of course, necessary surgeries are also, it happens. We get compromised in our field. So I want you to just notice, and then tomorrow's meditation will take you deeply, deeply into the luminous fibers in a Native American way. And I want you all remembering this, that connecting to the grid work of the earth and how information travels through the grid lines, Gaia can share secrets with you. Like all the knowledge And you don't have to get it with the part of your mind that is conscious. It's just if you're like, I just want to take my shoes off and just get some downloads from all the information stored on this part of the planet, that in itself is so powerful. And that's energy work. And the part of our mind that usually stays in beta and is so like distracted and bombarded and so much information, that part of us doesn't even have to understand the deep, deep work that's happening. But later you will. Later you can put all the pieces together. And it's like you have all the breadcrumbs on the trail and all the pieces to the puzzle. I love that. So just know, like whenever you feel inclined, like I'm being downloaded some information right now, and that will come into play. It will be helpful later. So yeah, I'm going to share some more handouts. I'm going to share some small video snippets of like how to start working with the structured level of your field, which is the first level, the energy grid. Okay. I was also speaking this to my mom this morning because it's funny these things that you can have experienced and the people closest to you don't even know, because it's like you were just going along in your life and they were going along in your life, and even though you love each other and you're getting together and you're visiting and all that, I was telling her this morning how up until the age 21, my clairvoyant abilities and like how I translated energy through my sight, I had no idea how to use it. It was like being on an LSD trip constantly and just like, that's freaky. Like, wow, what am I looking at? And not understanding how to help with it, how to use it. I didn't know. And then I go to massage school in 1995 and I'm sitting in the library at massage school, pull out, I'm sure I've got it right here. Yeah, Hands of Light. I'll show it to you. I don't start with this like I used to in energy healing training. I don't start with this anymore because we're so advanced from where we were in the 80s when this was made. But in 1995, when I roll up in massage school and I see this, and she says, this is the energetic template of your physical body. This is your emotional body. This is your mental body. This grid work, this gold, yellow, white light grid is like where all the thoughts are held. This is your astral body. I cried because I was just sitting there in that library and I was like, you mean I can actually do something with all the stuff that I see? Because nobody had ever been able to tell me what it was. And no one could explain to me that I could actually be useful with it. I could actually help. So the same was true with my mother. My mother's gifts far surpass mine. She's so incredibly intuitive. And here she was, a little girl in the 50s that was just the weird one, the weird kid that wanted to be outside all the time. And no one was there for mentorship for her. No one was there to guide her with safety. And so she wouldn't get afraid. So she wouldn't become very afraid of her own abilities. She needed a guide. And if anyone had been awake enough to like observe her and go, like the Jedi thing, the force is strong in this one. You know, this one can be mentored and cultivated. And that's all of you, because you would not have found your way to this if it wasn't true that it's like all you need is some guidance to like bring your abilities into full effect in safety, and nothing for you to be afraid of. Absolutely nothing for you to be afraid of. But yeah, it was life-changing to find good old Barbara Brennan, a NASA scientist who had both sides of her brain so fully on board to be able to be an engineer, scientist, and to be able to like come forth with all this stuff in full confidence and not be like, oh, I'm embarrassed. People are going to think I'm whatever, weird. No, she's like, this is it. Okay. So, like I said, I don't start there. And that's definitely not the gospel of what your energetic field is going to look like at this point. It's just a place to start with. Yes, you have an energy template grid. It is changing. The earth's is changing. Hers is changing so much. How would you imagine that yours would be the same as like when this book was published in 1984? But people are so used to being up here and being like, somebody's going to tell me how this works. Somebody's going to tell me what to think. Well, I hate to break this to you. We are the innovators now. There is no, for the grid work that has been happening to me a lot in my dream state, I've been being taught, but also when I'm in a waking state, there are no resources that I can give you because it's happening in real time. It's changing in real time. We have to do this together. So I would also like to ask everyone who watches this, you guys are all intuitive, come forth with your earth healing technologies that are going to bubble out of you when you're in a state of wholeness, when you're in a state of self-love and remembering and acceptance, and you're not thrown off course by any catastrophes that are nature or are not nature. It really doesn't matter because we have to transcend being worried about what's going to happen next and be the ones who are creating what happens next. Raymond said, remember, I'm going to review. This is so true. Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. And some people wonder what happened. I know if you're here with me, you're the kind of person that does the number one scenario. So I'll see you tomorrow for more grid work meditation.